Okay. What we will cover now is stamina. So our stamina system is based on weight. We usually aim to have our weight at around 18.5 to 25 kilograms of weight. However, each section is able to set their own weight limits. So if you're ever unsure or you want to clarify, ask your team leader or your section leader, and they'll be able to tell you what their preferences are for your role and the mission and everything else. As a general rule of thumb, we like to stick to no heavier than 25 kilos. Because of this, some of the more specialist people in your section may go over that. For example, when I used to run medic, I think my kit was almost 30 kilos. I'm sure some of the people like AT, the machine gun and all that are very heavy. Because of this, we have a system known as the pack horse system. This is designed to bring the weight of those heavier members, the specialist members, down onto the people that are not as heavy, so the weights will get spread evenly throughout the section. If you have a look in your backpack right now, you'll notice you have a 100 round belt of 7.62. This is one example of the pack horse system. You can also carry an extra AT stick, maybe some 40mm grenades, some medical gear, anything like that, just so the more people, well, the people who are heavier and more specialist roles, they can maintain sort of like a similar weight to the riflemen in the section. Next, what we'll go over is the ATAC. So I mentioned the S7 Android earlier. There are two ways that you can pop up this S7 Android. It's essentially a GPS slash CTAB. I believe it is right Alt and H and right Control and M or something like that. If you are unsure, you can go to your add-on options, your add-on control, sorry, and it'll be called CTAB.
Yeah, Dragon, that was J for you.
Yep.
Okay, so big and then... okay, no worries. So if everybody could pull that up big and let me know when you got it, and we'll start to go over it.
Got it.
Got it.
Yeah, I also got it.
All right, sweet. So we'll start in the top left. So all the way in the top left, you have the battery indicator. Useless, don't need it. Next one is your weather conditions. So for me, currently it's sunny, 18 degrees, and the wind is blowing from the south. Top middle is your time inside of the mission. And then the next one to the right of that is your marker color and your marker icons. And then all the way in the top right, you have your GPS signal, which is it's just an image, doesn't work. You can ignore it. In the middle, you obviously have a map that you can move around. And you also, when you move your cursor around, you'll notice you have a big yellow arrow following you around. If you move your arrow around, you'll notice in the bottom left the numbers start rapidly changing. This is basically the information of the point that you are looking at. So from the top in that bottom left-hand box, the top number is the grid of the location of where your cursor is at. Second one is how many meters above sea level that location is at. Next is how many meters away from your current position it is. And then all the way on the bottom is the bearing and cardinal mark if you're to walk in an exact straight line to be able to get to that location that you have indicated by your cursor. Bottom right, you have first your position in the section you're in. So currently, for me, it says Alpha 1-2, and I am number 1 in Alpha 1-2. Next one below that is your current bearing of where you are looking. So for me, I'm looking at 68 degrees. And then finally, it's the grid of where you're currently standing at. So for me and for you as well, it should be 041104. If you pop it up small, pretty much all of the information that I just talked about remains, apart from the stuff in the bottom left. So you can use that to like get bearings and other stuff. You can also, while it's in the bottom left of your screen, press Control Shift and either page up or page down to zoom in and out. Any questions on the CTAB? Okay, now, big quiz for everybody, including the people who have done this before. When we are referencing a friendly position, we always give it as a 6-figure grid reference, not an 8 or a 10-figure grid reference, especially when we're talking over the radio. Why is this?
I know.
It's an exact position. You don't want to give the enemy your exact position.
Exactly. Yeah, there's two reasons. The best one is 8 and 10 figure grid references are a lot harder to use. 6 figure is very quick, very easy, and just as Duck said, it's all about the precision. Say, for example, an enemy is listening to your radio communications and they hear a 6 figure grid reference and they decide, okay, yeah, I'm going to shell that place. You've got a 100 meter square around you of where that mortar can drop because it's accurate to 100 meters squared. The 8-figure and 10-figure grid reference are accurate to 10 and 1 meters respectively. Obviously, if a mortar lands within 10 or 1 meter of you, you're probably dead, so it's not really a good idea to give them that much of a specific target. Most of the time, you're not going to be using those ones anyways, but if you do, make sure they're only for enemy positions or maybe reference points or something. Last thing before we move on is grenade binds. Don't actually click them, for the love of God. But what's everybody's grenade binds set to?
G.
I've unbound it and I just use Shift G. The regular ace thing that lets you swap it, because it doesn't swap it first thing, so yeah.
Fair enough. For those that said single tap G, I do recommend changing it to double tap G, just so you don't accidentally throw grenades, because as happened before, we've had mass casualties due to that. If you want to change it, press escape, configure, controls, weapons, and then scroll down to throw. It's about halfway down, and then just delete the single tap G, and then replace it with the double tap. All right, once you've done that, if you'd like to follow me, and we'll head to the next bit. All right, so as a ranger, you are required to know how to do some basic map reading. This includes knowing some stuff about what you see on the map, and also being able to give 6-figure grid reference locations. Does anybody not know how to give a grid reference location? Okay, so if you'd like to zoom into your map and go to the south of Dagger Airfield, we'll do a quick walkthrough. Now, you'll notice that I'm drawing a big black box. This big black box is a 100-meter square, and if we zoom out more, you'll see that these to the west of the Dagger Airfield, you'll see that this is a much bigger square. So depending on your zoom level will determine which squares that you see. The big square to the west of us, that is accurate to 1 kilometer. That's also known as a two-digit grid. What we want is a... Wait, no, it's not 2-digit grid. What is it? It's a 4-digit grid. Yeah, 4-digit grid. And then the one that's small is a 6-digit grid, which you have to zoom in a lot more for. This is the one that we like to give our position with because it's nice and small, but it's accurate enough that you can walk there and navigate pretty good. So, as you may notice, there are 4 different places that we can reference this square at. What we always like to do is we always like to reference it from this bottom left-hand corner. And there is a specific way that we do this. So we first go along the corridor and up the stairs. If you're from the UK, you've probably heard that before. But essentially what that means is you want to read the number at the top or bottom of your screen first, and then the number at the side like that. So for this location here, the grid reference is 041, because that's the one at the top, and then 099, because that's the one on the left. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, now we're going to test to make sure you were listening. So, Mr. Dragon, if you have a look on your map, where's all the markers gone? Okay, all the markers have gone with the new update, so I'm going to place them down for you. Stand by. Okay, so to the east of us and a little bit south, you should see a marker called Dragon. Can you give me the location of, or the grid location of that marker, please? Yeah, slightly southeast. Southeast-east.
You should be able to see it if you zoom out a bunch.
Yeah, it's a couple kilometers away.
I see CP.
That's it.
Yep, CPU Dragon. Yeah,
It's
that's
the-
that.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. There. Okay. Let's see. We've got 076092.
Very nice. Valerian, I'll do the same for you. A little bit north from that marker. There you go. It's placed.
Zero 76107.
Very nice. Stork, I'll do the same for you. I'm going to place it towards the west. Sorry, east. When you found it.
097107. what is it? 9. Jesus Christ. 094107.
Yep, that is correct. And then Abel will go a little bit more down south for yours. There you go, it's placed.
That's 093096.
Very nice. So yeah, that's the basics of giving a grid. It's very easy. So if you now would like to divert your attention back towards base, you should see a little yellow marker flying around. Just like to zoom in on this area for me. So, as you should notice in this area, we've got a lot of these little lines here, the orange and red lines. Anybody know what these are?
Elevation lines.
Yep, they're specifically called contours, but they indicate steepness of terrain. So over here, you can see that these lines are very close together. This means that this hill is very steep over here. Whereas over here, you see the lines are a little bit spaced further apart. Not by much, but it is. This means it's going to be a little bit more flatter. Up here as well, you can see where it gets a lot more flatter towards the top of the hill. It just gives you an idea for elevation. So if you have a point man, you see a hill like this, you might not want to go up this way, but you might want to think about going maybe something like this if it permits. Last thing we're going to talk about is how to mark. There are 3 ways that you can mark your map. Control left click, you can do a nice squiggly line like so. Control shift and left click, you can do a perfectly straight line. And then finally, if you double click, you can place a nice fancy marker, and you can have a bunch of options for text, color, all of that. If you want to change the type of marker and the color, you can do that all the way in the top right, similar to the location it was on the C tab. Any questions so far? Okay, we'll move on to medical.
Where are you gonna go? Oh, there.
I'm here.
Oh, this one.
Camouflage, man.
Okay, so am I right in saying that some of you said you haven't used Ace before? I forgot.
That's correct for Dragon. I've heard of Ace and Reforger,
Aye.
but not here.
Okay. Okay, so the medical menu, well, the Ace medical is essentially. Let me start again. Essentially, how we do medical in this unit is we have a base mod that handles most of the medical, and then we have another mod that ups the difficulty of the medical. So the Ace part of it we'll go into first. Most of this is done through what's known as a medical menu. There are 3 ways at getting different types of medical menu open. So the main way is if you press H, you'll get up a nice menu, and you should have like a white humanoid person in the middle with a name and everything. You can also do control windows, medical menu there, and you can also do that on somebody else. So you can walk up to somebody else and then do interactions, medical menu. You can also press H on somebody else to get their medical menu open. Once you've got a medical menu open, I advise looking above the head of the person to find out whose medical menu you're on, because it will say the name of whoever you're looking at, just so you don't accidentally give, I don't know, Rifleman Tim a bit of morphine when you wanted to give it to yourself. So if you open up the medical menu, we'll go over everything. So as mentioned, the person in the middle is a medical reflection of either yourself or somebody else, depending on whose medical menu you're looking at. Again, you can use the name at the top to figure out who's you're looking at. Each one of these limbs can receive damage independent of themselves, and that damage is shown differently depending on the type of damage and the severity of the damage. Any color between orange and red, so really light orange to really dark red, that is a wound that is currently bleeding. Any wound that is from light blue all the way to a dark blue is the wound that is still present, but it's currently bandaged and it's no longer bleeding. The lighter the color indicates the severity. So if it's really light, it's a low severity wound. If it's a bleeding wound, it will be a very, very slow bleeder. Whereas if it's a red, it's a very heavy bleeder, and it's a more major wound. You may also see a red bone icon on either your arms or your legs. This indicates a fractured body part. You can only get these on your arms and legs. Depending on where you get it, will depend on what statuses you get. Say, for example, you get a broken arm, you'll probably have some more weapon sway. You'll be in pain, obviously. Whereas if you break your legs, you may not be able to run anymore, and you may be stuck to walking until you fix it. Last bit is on your torso. There should be, well, at some point, there should be a little bullet wound icon that you'll be able to see on the top right of your chest. This indicates a pneumothorax, also known as a lung puncture, which we'll go into a little bit later on. Moving on to the top left, we have a nice organized ribbon of different icons. We're going to start from the far left and move over to the far right. So the far left is known as the triage card, the little star of life. This menu will show you all of the medications that you have administered to yourself or somebody has administered to somebody else. Say, for example, you take 3 morphines, it will say 3 morphines, and it will tell you when the last one was administered. Same with blood, bandages, all sorts of stuff like that. The second option is the investigation option. So you'll get different statuses here and different things that you can check depending on what body part you're on. If you're on an arm or a leg, you can check for pulse and blood pressure. If you're on an arm, you can attach a pulse oximeter. If you're on a chest, you can only check pulse. If you're on a head, you can check dog tags and response. All sorts of stuff like that. So it's just investigating different parts of your patient. The next option is the one that you're going to be using the most. This is your bandage and fractures. So you'll be able to apply bandages, tourniquets, and fractures on different parts of your body. Obviously, you can't apply tourniquets on your head and your chest. And most of these options are hidden unless you actually need to do it. So, for example, right now, if you click on your arm, because you've not been shot, you won't be able to apply any bandages. You should still be able to apply a tourniquet if you really wanted to. And because you've also not got a broken arm, you shouldn't be able to apply a splint. The next option is the medication part. You can inject or take certain medications depending on what body parts you're on. If you're on arms and legs, you can use auto-injectors like epinephrine and morphine. If you're on your head, you can use pill bottles like CWMP and caffeine and Penthrox inhalers. And I don't think there's anything that you can give on the chest. So just arms and head, arms, leg, and head. Next one is the airway management. So the airway management, you probably won't be able to access that much while you're awake. It's mainly for other people when they go unconscious. This is for things like checking if their airway is currently blocked or occluded, which we'll get into a little bit later on. And it will allow you to do certain options to clear their airways and certain stuff like that. The next option is your advanced treatments. This one you're mainly only going to be using for CPR. And that's when somebody's unconscious, you can hop on their chest and then click on advanced treatments and you get the option for CPR. There are some other things that you would be able to do from there, but most of the time it's going to be the medic who's doing that, not a ranger. 7th option, the little bone plate looking thing. Don't use it. You'll never use that. We have it all turned off. Don't worry about it. Next one, drag and carry. This will allow you to drag or carry somebody. You can only drag or carry somebody if they are unable to run. So if they're stuck walking, either because of an open wound or a broken leg, you can carry them then. I believe there's some other damage criteria that you can have to carry somebody, but it's mainly when they're unconscious that you can carry somebody. And then the final option, all the way on the top right, is your switch to button. So say, for example, I walked up to Valerion here and I pressed H, but I want to go into my medical menu. If I gave a morphine through this menu, I'm going to give it to Valerion. If I click that button top right, it will switch it to my medical menu. And if I click it again, it will switch it back to his. So if you're all like really tight together and you can't get your own medical menu up, click that button and you can switch to it. Alternatively, look straight up or straight down and you'll be able to do it, or the ACE self-ACE interaction way. Any questions so far? Okay, so that's like the basics of ACE. Now we're going to move on to CAT. So the first thing with CAT is medications. There are 3 medications that we usually carry around as Rangers: morphine, epinephrine, and combat pill packs. That has recently changed, but we're not going to be going into that today. Morphine lowers heart rate, blood pressure while suppressing pain. Max dosage of this drug is 1 every 15 minutes. I only recommend you take this if you're at lost some blood or higher. It can cause cardiac arrest if used incorrectly. So if you're unsure, contact your section medic before use. Epinephrine increases heart rate and blood pressure, mainly if used during CPR to establish a heart rate. Again, this can cause cardiac arrest if used correctly. Maximum dosage of this is 2 every 2 minutes, but if you're unsure, contact your section medic. Finally, combat pill packs. These increase heart rate while decreasing your blood pressure very slightly while suppressing your pain. Not as strong as the morphine, but I like to refer to these as your rifleman skittles. You can take these pretty much in any scenario. As long as you're not abusing the drug or literally on death's door, you should be fine. You can pop them as much as you like. Max dosage of this drug is 10 every 15 minutes, but I tend to find this a little bit higher than that. You can use this while under the effects of morphine. So obviously, as I mentioned, with morphine, you can only take 1 every 15 minutes. Say you just took one, 5 minutes later you get shot, you're in pain again. You can't have a morphine, but you probably can have the painkillers. Can you hear me now, Mabel?
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Could everybody else hear me just then?
Yeah.
Yep.
I could hear you.
Okay.
Yep.
You haven't missed much, so I'll run you through this stuff at the end. It's mainly just medication stuff. So it can be used while under the effects of morphine. Drug is pretty much safe in all conditions, obviously, unless you're trying to overdose yourself or you're on death's door, you should be fine while taking this one. In the mod, we have 4 different types of bandages. Field bandages, your most basic bandages. Don't recommend using them unless there is no other option. Obviously, it's better than nothing, but it's not better than the other ones. Packing bandages are pretty good as your main bandage as a ranger. They're good all around. They have a high chance to reopen. However, they'll hold for a while before they break. Once you've applied a bandage, they will eventually fall off. That's what I mean by when they break. Elastic bandages, I don't really recommend for rangers. This is more of a medic's bandage. They are very good for closing wounds. However, they fall off very quickly. The quick clots, which is the other one I recommend for rangers, have the lowest chance to reopen. They give you a while before they break. However, they're a lot less effective than the other bandages, so you'll need a slight bit more of them for them to work, but they hold for the longest. So I usually recommend start off with packing bandages, finish the wound off with a quick clot, and you should be good to go. Moving on to vitals. So you carry a pulse oximeter around with you. This pulse oximeter can give you 2 readings. It gives you readings of BPM, which is your heart rate, and then your SpO2, which is a measure of the percentage, measurement of the percentage of your blood that is carrying oxygen around your body. For the BPM, 60 to 110 is considered normal. For the SpO2, anything from 96 to 100%. Essentially, the higher it is, the better. The one number I want to drill into you, and I want you to really remember, is 65%. If somebody gets down to 65% on their SpO2, they will die. Even if they only have a tiny bit of a paper cut on their finger, they will die because there's not enough oxygen getting to their brain. So do keep in mind with that one. Any questions? Okay, on to standard issue medical equipment. So 16 gauge IVs. You're not going to be using these. These are mainly for the medics. It's one of those pack horse things that I was talking about at the start. It just makes sure that your medic isn't carrying around 50 million of them. You can help them out that way, and they're very light, so they won't really affect too much of your inventory space. Chest seals. are used to seal a chest when a pneumothorax/lung puncture is present. Obviously, we figured out how to see that we've got a lung puncture or pneumothorax earlier. I always say, please inform your medic if you use one of these. Reason is sometimes you can't fully heal a pneumothorax with just the chest seal. It may need some further intervention from your medic, so always let your medic know that you've used one, and they can give you a quick check over, make sure you're fine. Next is your girdle tube. Girdle tube is an airway securing device. After you've fully cleared the airway, you can put one of these in, and it will protect the patient's tongue from falling back into the airway and blocking it. Do note, if somebody does throw up while they have one of these in, it will still block the airway, so we need to clear it again after they've thrown up if they do. Next one is your pulse oximeter. We've just gone over that. Tourniquets. Tourniquets will completely block blood flow in and out of a limb that is applied to. Can be applied to your arms and your legs only. Note, if you apply a tourniquet on a limb, it will show 0 BPM, 0 blood pressure, and it will show that a deadly amount of SpO2, even if the patient is completely fine. So make sure, same with giving medications as well. If you give a medication in a tourniquet limb, it isn't going to go anywhere. So just make sure if you're doing any sort of investigation or giving yourself any medication, just make sure you're giving it to a limb that has not got a tourniquet on it. Finally, splint. It's very easy to use one of these. It's sort of similar to a bandage, but instead of it dealing with a wound, it deals with a fracture, and it will fully heal it with no problems. Any questions? Okay, stand by.
I do have a question, quick, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you go down, one of the other reasons why you have all this stuff in your gear is when a medic sort of fixes you up and tends to you, they use your stuff in your inventory first automatically, or is that no longer a thing?
I'm pretty sure it is. However, I can check right now.
Yeah, no, in all my experience being a medic in previous groups, that was very much the case, that it would take from the wounded individual's inventory first.
Yeah, so it's not really a case of, hey medic, you have bandages, here's some. It's more like you got shot, the medic will automatically use them anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is set to patient's equipment first, so yeah, you're all right.
It's one of the reasons why having blood on plasma on you is very important, so that medics can just take it from your inventory as you are actively bleeding out.
Yeah.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay, almost done with the medical. We just got 2 mnemonics to run over. So, first one is known as the must breathe air mnemonic. Mike Bravo Alpha MBA. This stands for massive hemorrhage, beating, and airway. Massive hemorrhage step is actually I should probably explain why you use this. So, if you ever forget what order that you need to deal with injuries to get a casualty up, or you just don't know what to do next or anything, it's a good general rule of thumb to follow. It's not perfect in every single scenario, but in most scenarios, it's pretty good. So if you ever forget, just follow this. So massive hemorrhage, tourniquet/bandage all bleeding limbs, beating. You want to make sure the heart is beating, patient's heart is beating, and then airway. You want to clear and secure the patient's airway. So how that might look on somebody who's actively down is you want to first start tourniqueting any injured limbs if there are any, bandaging head and torso if there is any. You'll then want to move on to the beating step. I always recommend checking a patient's blood pressure. I'm not going to go into why, but it is very deliberate to check the blood pressure, not the heart rate. If the blood pressure is low, normal, or high, move on. Their heart is fine. If there is no blood pressure, immediately begin CPR and inform your medic that you have a cardiac arrest on your hands. Finally, airway. You want to check their airway. If their airway is blocked, you want to hyperextend their head. If their airway is occluded, you either want to begin head turning, or if you have one, use an emergency suction device. I believe it's called, or emergency suction bag. When it is clear, insert your securing device, which is pretty much going to be a girdle tube. If you have a King LT on you, then great. If not, girdle tube. You can also establish somebody in the recovery position. However, I largely do not recommend it. Your medics know why that is, and they can put them in the recovery position if they want to, but largely I recommend staying far clear of that. Finally, we have the 8 drill. So whenever you take some casualties out in the field, the way you're supposed to deal with it and the order of which you're supposed to deal with it is dictated by the H drill. This is Alpha Echo Echo Tango. So the first one, the first A, alert. You want to call man down, preferably over the section radio. This then informs everybody that you've got at least one casualty, and it sort of switches on some certain people to change your fighting style. Maybe you want to go defensive at that point. It also lets your medic know that they need to start figuring out where this casualty is and giving them some medical aid. Next is eliminate. You want to kill or suppress the enemy. If you cannot do this in a timely manner, you can use smokes. One famous line that I've always carried with me is smokes are a double-edged weapon. Enemy may not be able to see you, but you might also not be able to see the enemy, potentially leaving yourself open to being flanked, pushed, etc., etc. Next is evacuate. You want to get the casualty to a safe location and in cover, so it's safe for the medic and you and whoever else to deal with the medical safely without being shot. Bonus points if they fall down in cover straight away. And then finally, the T, treat. If you're not the medic, begin treatment following the must-breathe air mnemonic until the medic's arrival. On their arrival, the medic has overall command of the scene. This includes requesting support from section members to provide medical support, such as CPR, etc. The casualty and medic will also require protection if the firefight is ongoing. So if there's like 2 or 3 people currently dealing with the medical and you want to help, but you don't want to clog up the scene with more people doing medical, pull an ARD, you can protect them from not being shot anymore. That's a nice thing to do. Note, before you put yourself in danger to save another, take a second to review your surroundings and ensure it is safe enough to collect them before putting yourself in a dangerous position and becoming a casualty yourself. Cannot stress this point enough. If for example, you're in an open field and somebody gets gatted down by a BTR or BMP or a machine gun or whatever, if you run straight out into there and try and get them, you're probably going to die as well. So take a second to review your surroundings. Make sure you're not going to, make sure it's as safe as it can be before you go out and grab them. We do always like to bring everybody home if we can, but just because of the nature of what we do, sometimes this is not possible. So we always like to say, value your life, just in case we can't get everybody out, but we do like to get everybody out if we can. So, I know that has been a lot of information. All of the information that I've just covered, plus a little extra, is found in the Ranger's Aid Memoir. It's under a document called My Basic Medical Handbook for Rangers. So if you ever forget anything, you can have a look in there. You can also contact your section medic or any of the RMC reserve members, anybody from J7. There's loads of people you can talk to that can all give you advice on medical. Yeah, any questions before we move on? Very nice. Move on to radios. Follow me. Okay, so we use TFAR as our radio mod. We'll go over radios first. If you open your inventory, you should have a green 152 radio. This is what we use for standard section-to-section comms. And if I can have... Do you have one? Yes. If you can just step up, Mr. Duck, and face your back towards these beautiful people. If you have a look on the back of Duck, he has an antenna sticking out of his backpack. That's one of our long-range radios that we have. They come in a few different flavors, but if you see an antenna out the back, that's usually going to be a long-range radio. Thank you, Mega. We use that more for our big communication, so say communication with command and air assets and stuff. However, you can also connect to those frequencies with the shorter range radio if you need to as well. So there's a few different ways that you can pull up your radio to change stuff about them. By default, Control P will bring up your short range radio. You can also click Control and the Windows and go to radios and open up your radio that way. And if you've got better inventory, you can open up your radio, navigate over to your radio, and then you'll see an Open SW button. That is also another way that you can access your radio as well. So 3 different ways. Once you're in your radio, we'll talk about all the different stuff. So starting from the top, you'll see 3 sort of like antenna things. In the middle, you'll see one that says off, 1 and 2. You hover over that, you'll see decrease volume and increase volume. Left click that to decrease the volume. Right click it to increase the volume. Moving down to the center, you'll see a nice yellow display. You'll see a C1 there currently, or you'll see a C and a number. This refers to your channel. and there'll be a 1. If it says A there, then it's set up as an additional channel, but we're not going to cover up how to do that just yet. Next to it, you have a number. Right now, for me, it says 191.4. This is where you put in your different radio frequencies. For now, if you just type 30 in there for me. After you've done that, the ENT button on the right-hand side of the little numpad will set the frequency, and you should hear a little click when that goes through. You've got the clear button that can clear the frequency. You've got the pre, plus, and minus for your next and previous channel. And that is all we're going to cover for now. Any questions so far? Okay, so when you've all set your radios over to 30, if you can all give me a radio check on it. It's caps lock to speak on it by default. So Valerian, if you go first.
Radio check.
Yep, got you. Abel.
Radio check.
Good. Dragon.
Negative on my radio. I can't get the 30 dialed in.
Okay, so if you go into your radio, in the middle, you should see just after the C1 there's a number. If you highlight it, so if you click and drag like you are editing like a Word document or whatever, and then just type in there 30. After you've done that, you see the keypad below it. You should see the ENT button. If you click that after you put in the 30, you should hear a click.
Yeah, it's like my buttons aren't doing anything when I can highlight the A1, but I'm not able to edit it for some reason. It's like my controls are messed up.
So it's the number. It's the number to the right of the C1. So it should be C1, then there'd be like a little space, and then the number. That's the frequency number there that you should be able to edit.
Radio check.
Send it again.
Radio check.
Don't think that's coming through on 30.
I'm getting
I
it.
think it is.
It came through for me.
It came in for me.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Do it again.
Testing 1 2 3.
Loud and clear.
Interesting.
I think Dragon is echoing.
I think yours is.
I think someone has it on speaker, but yeah.
I'll just reset mine. Okay, and Stork, if you could give me one as well.
Radio check.
Yeah, there we go. I heard that one. All right, so as for frequencies, most of the frequencies we use never change, and they are very predictable. The main ones you're going to need to know are in the 40 range, and those are your section frequencies. So if you put a 4 in front of the number, and then after it, if you put your section number, so say, for example, you're 1-1, you'll be on radio 4-1, section 1-2 is on 4-2, 1-3 is on 4-3, when we get a 1-4, they'll be on 4-4, so on, so on, and so on, and so on. The other radios you might be using is 30, that is the command net. There's one example that you may be using this, and we'll go into this a little bit later on. And then there's also 80, which we'll go into right at the end, but that's your convoy module. You may also need to speak on that as well. So there are two ways that we can speak on a radio. These are called voice procedures. There is a casual voice procedure and a formal voice procedure. Best way I can describe it to you is it's essentially a script. Casual voice protocol, there is no script. You can speak however the hell you want. Formal voice protocol is a very specific script that you have to follow in order to get your message across. By default, all of the section radios, so your 4-1s, your 4-2s, your 4-3s, they all use casual voice procedure. If your section leader is mean enough, he can say, or they can say, that they want you to speak in formal voice procedure. Never heard it been done, but it's something they can do. But for the most part, you can speak on there with no script and you'll be fine. One thing I always like to mention is only, especially in like stress and battle scenarios, don't be speaking on the radio with just like random stuff like, oh, I'm about to eat a pizza for my dinner or something. Save it for the more emergent communications. You can also use shouting, which we'll cover in a second, to minimize your radio usage. It's just because there's at least going to be about 8 of you on that frequency, and it can very easily get clogged. So if you're broadcasting stuff that's not really important, you can clog it up pretty quickly. So, talking volume, there are 3 different volumes that you can talk at, and it's not really a volume, it's more of like a range that you talk at. So Whispering is the smallest amount of range, and if I toggled it on now, you probably struggle to hear me the way you are because it doesn't carry for long. Normal talking is a little bit further out, and then shouting is really far. You can adjust this by going to Control and Tab, and in the bottom right, you should see a little guide pop up with either like a little shush finger, a normal speech bubble, or a hand. That is whisper, talk, and shout, respectively. One thing that we always ask you to do is do not shout while on base. Base is usually quite small, and because your voice carries for quite a while, you can find yourself interrupting certain briefings or other important communications that need to happen. But while you're out on the battlefield, it is heavily encouraged for you to use shouting to try and cut down on your radio usage. If unsure, speak to your team lead or section lead for it. With whispering, we mainly use that when we're on stealth ops. Obviously, if you're on a stealth op, you don't want to be shouting your lungs out. AI do react to your voice. They don't know what you're saying, but they can hear it. So if you're shouting in a bush 2 meters away from one, they're going to turn and get you down in the face if they haven't already seen you. So do make sure you're using that. Next is the SATCOM. So on this table right behind me, we have this thing right here. This is known as a SATCOM. These should be in every single mission, and they should be somewhere at base. Usually you're going to find these next to the arsenal. There's one reason that you want to use these. So when you're spawning in, you should have at least two options, but it depends. If LSS are on and they are operating a vehicle that can do infantry reinserts, you will notice a respawn option that says LSS and then the name of a vehicle. You spawn on that, that is the correct location to spawn on. You will be driven towards the front line from there. However, if you spawn from base, you're going to need to be either TP'd in or you're going to need to be inserted via the helicopters. If you do find yourself spawning in at base, two things you can do. One, escape, respawn, and then spawn in the correct location if you misclicked and didn't click the LSS one. Or, if there is no LSS, or for whatever reason you can't spawn there, walk over to one of these SATCOMs, radio your section commander or your 2IC or anything, and just say, hey, I'm at base, need a TP in, and then they will get that organized for you. This SATCOM is a passive system, so as soon as you stand next to it, your radio range will be increased tenfold. So that your section leader and your team leader will be able to hear you. However, do keep in mind, if your section leader or team leader are far enough away, they will be able to hear you, but because their radios aren't also receiving the same boost, you might not be able to hear them back. So after you've sent your message, wait a few minutes. If after like 2-3 minutes, you've not heard a response, you've not been TP'd in, whatever, then post your query in side chat, but just give it that couple of minutes just in case they have heard you, they just can't respond back. Gone over all that, gone over that. Okay, so we're going to now talk about pro words. There is a whole list of pro words, and I could probably make a whole training that's about an hour talking about pro words, but we're only going to cover one today. This one is break, break, break. Has anybody heard of this before? Mm-hmm. Okay, what does it mean?
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Essentially means I've got something important to say. If you're not saying something important, shut up and listen, essentially. Maybe you've got somebody speaking on radio about what they're going to eat tonight, and somebody else wants to say that they've got a tank shooting. They'll say, break, break, break. That means the guy who's talking about his dinner, shut up. And then the other guy can say, yeah, we've got a tank right in front of us about to shoot us. So, yeah, break, break, break means be quiet if you're not saying something important. So, I mentioned earlier that there is one reason you might need to go onto a command frequency and use formal voice procedure. That is in case of a MASCAS. MASCAS is when a large portion of your section becomes combat ineffective and is usually unconscious, usually by explosions or some other type of heavy contact. When you are reporting a MASCAS, you need to report it to the command. The command's call sign is always going to be 0. And the command will always be residing on frequency 30. When you're on 30, it is a mandatory formal voice procedure net. We'll go over the script. It's relatively easy, but we can break it down to 3 sections. So the first bit is your handshake procedure. Second bit is your message. third bit is your final word. So for the handshake, you want to say who you're talking to and who you are. So in this case, we'll say we are section 1-1 and we are trying to speak to command. We would say hello first. You must put the word hello in there. That lets everybody know that you're starting a conversation and allows everybody to perk their ears up to see who you're trying to reach. So you say hello and then who you're talking to or who you want to talk to. So in this case, hello 0 and then who you are. So in this case, this is 1-1. So hello 0, this is 1-1. That's your handshake. We're going to skip the message for a second because for Maskaz it's heavily scripted and it's going to take a bit. We're going to skip over to the final word. Now there's two different words that you can use here. You can either use over or you can use out. You cannot use both of them at the same time like Hollywood does because that is cringe. We use either one or either.
User joined your channel.
Over means you're ending the message, but you expect to reply back. Out essentially means that you've just left the call. You are ending the message and the conversation. You're not expecting anything back from them. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, onto the message. If you're just saying, if you're just giving like a status report, there is no like specific script to follow. You can just say whatever in there, depending on what you're saying. However, for a Maskaz, there's a very specific script that you have to follow for the middle message part. So this is Maskaz, Maskaz, Maskaz. Then you say the word grid followed by your actual grid. And then you say advise over. So an entire sort of like message portion of this without all the other bits is Maskaz, 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 grid 0, 4, 1, 1, 0, 4, advise. Pretty simple. And then obviously you flank that both with the hello 0, this is 1-1 or whatever your section is, and then the over at the end. Because you're asking them for advice, in this case orders, you always use over, and then when they come back to you, you can then use out depending on what they say, but for the first part you always use over. So because I enjoy tests, we're going to go through it all one at a time. So who wants to volunteer for first?
I can go first if you want to use an example, or
Sure, yeah, go for it.
you want to use one of the newer guys. That's cool too.
No, yeah, you can do one. Broadcast it on 3-0.
You want to do it over the actual radio or just say it?
Just over the radio, please.
Okay.
Hello 0, this is 1-1.
User
Maskaz, Maskaz, Maskaz. Grid 0, 4, 1, 1, 0, 4. Please advise. Over.
Perfect. All right, so we'll go with Valerion first. If you can repeat that back to me.
User joined your channel.
Hello 0, this is 1-1. Maskaz, Maskaz, Maskaz. 0, 4, 1, 0, 1, 0. Sorry, 1, 0, 1. Advice. Over.
Okay, pretty much perfect. You forgot to say the word grid before you said the grid. Most of the time, they're not going to use the grid to locate your position anyway, but it's a nice thing as a backup. And the reason why we say the word grid before saying the numbers is so that they know that they're about to receive at least 6 numbers, so they can be prepared to write it down. You also made a mistake in the grid reference, which is fine. That's fine. If you do make a mistake, it's usually best to say wrong and then start again, or say break and then start again, just to sort of cut down on the confusion. But you did perfect. Everybody would know exactly what you're on about in an actual mission if you use that. All right, Abel, you're next.
Hello 0, this is 1. Oh. Someone on speaker is really putting my...
Is it me? Because I feel like it's me the whole time.
Test.
No. So if everybody can open up the radios for me. On the bottom line of your keypad, you will see the right arrow. If you press that, you'll see a little dialog box open up in the bottom right. Make sure it says headphones there and not speakers for me.
It was me. I have my speaker on.
Ah, okay.
Alright. Sorry, that was just really putting me off. I'll try that again, though.
Everyone was running over to me.
Hello 0, this is 1-1. Mascaz, grid 041104, advise, over.
Perfect. Dragon.
Hello, Luna. This is 1-1. Mascaz. Grid 041104. Please advise. Over.
Perfect. Although when you're in a mission, send it to 0 because that's your command. But yeah, for this it's perfect. And Stalk. Can't hear you if you're speaking.
Best Mascaz ever.
Excellently muted myself. Okay.
Okay, never mind.
Hello, 0. This is 1-1. Mascaz. Grid
User joined your channel.
041104. Advice, over.
Perfect. You're all professionals. Doesn't have to be perfect in an actual mission as long as you
User
get the
left
more
your
important bits of the message over. That's all you need, but try and get it right every time, and there should be no issues. All right, follow me, and we'll get over to the next bit. Oh, I should probably ask if anyone's got any questions. Any questions? Cool. So, here is a slight flavor. Oh, yes. Depending on what section you're in, yeah.
To give the call a lot. 3 seconds.
So this is a small flavor of some of the vehicles that we use. It's not all of them. We use a bunch more, but we just wanted to give you a slight example. Now, I like to always break these down into 2 different groups. We have the more like infantry focused vehicles over here, and then we have the more armored vehicles over here. Starting from the right hand side, we have the Jackal, we have the Husky, the Bulldog, and the Warrior. Most of the time, you're going to find yourself in one of these, the Husky. That's the one that the sections use pretty much all the
User
time.
joined your channel.
You're pretty much never going to see a Jackal. You were never going to see a Jackal. You may see a Coyote, which is the bigger brother. Usually that's in use by LSS sometimes. And then these are sometimes used by KRH. So, we're a first-person only unit. With us being a first-person only unit comes from the drawbacks of there being visibility issues, especially in some of these vehicles here. These two, the visibility is okay, but because they are armored, less so on that one, because they're armored, the visibility is still quite crap. Most of the time you're going to find yourself to have communications with the people in these cars, so it's going to be less of an issue because you can tell them, okay, yeah, I'm right behind you, please don't reverse, or I'm right in front of you, please don't drive forward, stuff like that. For these ones, it's a different kettle of fish entirely. These vehicles have basically no visibility, and most of the time you're not going to have direct communication with these vehicles, so you have to be very careful with them. I do not recommend standing anywhere close to the vehicles unless you are paying absolute attention. Now, one thing I always like to cover when talking about these bigger vehicles is being aware of the battle space around you and predicting what something might do. Say, for example, that warrior is a challenger and it gets hit in the side by an RPG. What's the 2 things it's likely to do?
Go boom.
Exactly, yeah. They may either turn their armor to face the threat and engage the threat head-on because they've got the most thicker armor at the front of their vehicle, or they're going to reverse at high speeds and engage it from a different angle. Knowing this and using that sort of prediction, you can sort of get yourself out of the way if something like that was to happen. So say, for example, you were hiding behind this vehicle, takes an RPG to the side, you may not want to stand directly behind it because you may find yourself become a pancake in a short amount of time. But what I always recommend is don't stay near these vehicles unless you have direct communication with them. Most of the time you're not going to have that, but there is one hack. If you come follow me. On pretty much every vehicle that we have, always at the back right of them, if you do a Windows interact, you will see an intercom phone. You can pick this up and you can speak to the crew inside, and it's basically like you're speaking to them on a radio. Now, do keep in mind this is something that you should not be using all the time, as it essentially takes away from the communication that the crew are having in there, and obviously they need to do their own battle space planning. They're fighting in the same battle that you are as well. You need your communication with your squads. They need their communication with the vehicle, more so because they're a bigger target. So if you are going to say something on there, make it sure it's important, short, and sweet. But say, for example, you've got like 5 guys behind you, behind this vehicle, and there's a big medical scenario where you can't move out of the way quick enough. You may want to hop on that intercom phone and be like, yo, don't reverse, you'll kill like 3 people, for example. Does that all make sense? Any questions?
I got a question, quickly.
Yeah, go for it.
If am I right in saying that if you find yourself driving one of the infantry vehicles and you intend to reverse, am I right in saying you sound your horn, like sort of like a beep?
You are right, yes.
Beep, because there's no reversing sounds on it, and it's just immediately flatten whoever is behind you.
Yep, that is correct. So on vehicles like this, obviously there's no horns, but on vehicles like that, if you're finding yourself driving it, sound the horn as you reverse. And if you hear the horn, it may be that they start reversing as well. Obviously, they could be honking for other reasons, but that's usually the rule of thumb.
You hear that
With
horn
the...
get louder, you're dead.
Yeah, exactly. So with these vehicles, last thing I'm going to cover is a CES. This stands for Complete Equipment Schedule. It's essentially, these vehicles have supplies in them that you can use throughout the operation. They are designed to run out at a certain point, so if you notice them get low, speak to your section commander or your team lead just to let them know that they need to organize a resupply. But if you ever need blood, mags, grenades, whatever it may be, check your vehicle's inventory because it's most likely going to be in there, and just let your section leader know when that starts to get low so they can organize a resupply. All right, follow me. We'll get into the fast parts of the training now. Okay, so now we're going to talk about formations, and before we get into the whole formation stuff, we're going to talk about what we see here. So this is an example makeup of a section. So usually a section is formed of up to 6 to 8 people, and there are usually very predictable roles inside of a section. However, it can change. So moving from left to right, you have your point man, your section commander, your grenadier. Is that grenadier? That is a grenadier. And then you have your rifleman, or you can have an AT in this bit. Over here, you have your sharpshooter, your team lead, your medic, and your machine gun. These are split into 2 teams nicely, as you can see by the break. This is Charlie team over here, which is the assault team. And then you have Delta team here, which is your support team. Usually they're colored red and blue, but the official names are Charlie and Delta. Now, this is not sort of like a hard and fast rule. Depending on the type of mission, your section commander may choose that they want 2 sharpshooters, or 2 machine gunners, or 2 AT people, or 2 grenadiers, or no grenadiers, or, you know, it can change. So it's not a hard and fast rule, but this is sort of like an idea of what... Who the fuck's doing that?
What is it? Jesus.
Someone's spamming the radio.
It's fucking floating here. What
the fuck? Okay, it stopped.
I don't think so,
it's
considering
just
that
spamming
you're also
the
yeah.
transmit thing.
Weird. Anyway, where was I?
It's not a
Yeah,
hard and fast.
Yeah, not a hard and fast rule. As for the teams, they pretty much always are hard and fast. Usually your Charlie team is going to be, section leader is going to be present in that one. Your Delta team is going to be your 2 IC present in that one. Essentially, your Delta team is your slower moving support section. Your Charlie team is your faster moving enforcer section, essentially. So when you're operating in a formation, Mr. Dragon, if you can stay perfectly still for you, you're going to be operating as a spacing about 5 to 10 meters, which is somewhat around the space between me and Dragon right now. This is going to be sort of like your default spacing. You may hear a call called tight be called. That means essentially small formation, cut down on the spacing, and that would usually be spacing of something like this, or even closer. If I can't actually get closer, but yeah, quite close spacing. Usually you're going to use this in forest or nighttime environments. It just makes sure the whole footprint of the section is quite small, and it makes it a little bit harder to spot. One thing we're going to be hearing a bit in the next part is heavy left and heavy right. Essentially, this refers to the position of the machine gunner, and we'll go into this more in detail once we get into the formations that use it. Down at the bottom of your screen, you should see a compass. We usually refer to this as the ShackTac UI. You should all be in the same ACE group, hopefully. So you should be able to see like some little white dots on your compass. You can use this and the C tab that we mentioned earlier with zooming in. You can use this to visualize where everybody is in your section to be able to form up the formation that you're trying to do. One thing I'm always going to mention is when you're out in the field, there's no drill instructor. They're not going to come. There's not going to be anybody coming around being like, "You are 0.3 millimeters out of line. Get in line," or 20 push-ups. We don't expect you to follow the formations perfectly. We just ask that you follow the idea of the formations. Try and keep it as good as you can, but obviously sometimes there's variables that mean it's not going to be perfect, but just try and get it as good as you can while also keeping yourself alive. What we're also going to talk about is order of march. So order of march is what you see here, and it's basically a number, depends on where you're going to be. So from left to right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we got 5, 6, 7, 8 there. You use this to know where you're supposed to stand inside of your formation, and also where you're expected to be in certain formations, which we'll cover shortly. So, any questions before we move on? Okay, great. If you'd like to follow me, we'll go into the first formation that we use. Anybody know what this is called?
Dragon, if you press Control C, you should get out of the walking mode unless you want to be there. Or take your weapon out, press 1, you should stop walking.
Anybody know what this formation is called?
Yep.
Go for it.
It's a herringbone.
Herringbone, yeah. So, as we mentioned before, spacing is usually around 5 to 10 meters. This is the exception, this formation here. This is a static formation, usually formed when you're either getting into a helicopter or when you're receiving briefing at base. However, I think it's not really used for that much anymore. But essentially, it's a static formation used in a green area, and the spacing is supposed to be this close. Now, while we're looking at this formation, you may want to look at how they're looking, because it's very obvious in this formation. What we refer to this as arcs or areas of responsibility. The areas of responsibility are always the same and are always predictable. It goes front guy looks front, everybody in the middle goes right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, and then the guy at the back looks to the back. And you can see this perfectly here. These areas of responsibility, we expect you to have them when you're in a formation. Depending on what formation it is, you may have a different way that you need to look, and we also expect you to maintain this area of responsibility while you are walking. Now, that does not mean if you're at the back, you do moon walking like this, or if you're at the side, you do crab walking like this. Easiest way to check your area of responsibility: press and hold Alt, and you'll be able to tilt your head independent of your body. You can use that to look where you're supposed to once every like minute or two. You don't have to look there constantly, while also maintaining walking forward. So currently I'm looking at all of you, but I'm walking forwards. And then when you let go of Alt, you continue looking forwards again. So it's pretty simple. Any questions? Okay. In this formation, anybody got any ideas what this one's called?
Jesus, I'm lagging, bro.
So this one is called your file. So this is pretty much your default formation. If you're unsure what formation to follow, or if it's not been said, it's more than likely going to be this one. This is the one that gets used the most. So obviously, because of space, we've not got the proper spacing in here, but this would be about 5 to 10 meters. As mentioned, this is going to be your most default one. Reason why this is good: say, for example, this guy is unfortunate enough to step on a mine. He's dead. He's probably dead. He's probably injured. He and the guys behind him may be fine. That is why we have the spacing here. So if something big does happen, like an explosion, it means most of your section might end up becoming combat ineffective, but there's still going to be a good portion of your lot that stay combat effective. Obviously not in every situation, but in most situations, that's the idea of it. So you want to make sure that spacing is there. So this is used where contact is unlikely, usually in a green area or a safe area. It's useful for IEDs, as I mentioned before. If one guy steps, it's going to take out about half of the section, but there's still going to be quite a few of you that are combat effective. It's good for flanking contact because you've got a nice amount of people looking both to the left and to the right. And obviously you've got your arcs that are the same as the ones in the herringbone. Moving on, we have this formation here, and we know what this is
called. NATO T.
Very good, yes, NATO T. Usually used in jungles, forests, tropical environments. So essentially what we have here is we have Delta Team in the front forming the little baseliney part, and then at the back we have the tail with Charlie Team. One reason why this is quite good is because you've got a nice 360-degree realm of protection, and the guys in the back, the tail as we refer to them, they can tack on each side of the formation and form a baseline very quickly. So say, for example, you're walking down and you suddenly take contact from the front. This tail can then either tack on to the formation on the left or to the right and form a baseline to return fire. And obviously you already have 4 guns facing front, so you can already engage with 4 guns straight away while the tail moves into a baseline position. So it's pretty good. However, I don't think it's used too often, but it's still a pretty nice formation. So if you do a quick about face, you will see a what? Anybody got any ideas?
Wedge.
Ooh, almost. Wedge is the American name for it. We use the term arrowhead.
Oh.
No, we use arrowhead. Americans use the wedge. People will know what you're on about when you say wedge, because most of us grow up on American use anyway, but the official term is arrowhead. So, this is the first formation where you may hear the term heavy left or heavy right. And as we mentioned before, that's the position of the MG. In this case, we are in heavy left because the machine gunner is on the left-hand side of the formation, right down there. If that all makes sense. With this one, the arcs are a little bit different. I'm going to turn them so that they are facing the correct ways. Stand by. So arcs are something like that. So your front guys looking front, your guys down the sides are looking about 45 degrees off to the left and right respectively, and then you got the guys at the back that are looking towards the rear. So this formation is very good for frontal and side contact. Say for and it's good formation for advancing on contact. Say for example, you were advancing on FOB, but there was a forest line on your left. You wasn't sure if there was going to be enemies in that forest line. You may want to adopt this one rather than the other advance to contact that we'll see, because at least in this way, if somebody approaches you from the side and starts engaging you from the side, you've got at least half of your section that can then start opening fire on that side. So it's very good for advancing on a contact, but you're not sure if you're going to be flanked or not. Whereas this one here is the other one that we use for advanced contact. This is called the extended line. Can also be referred to as the battle line or baseline. As you can see, in this one, there's only 2 people at the sides, so this is mainly for when you're not expecting flanking contact. You've got all the guns facing front. You're essentially gambling on there not being anybody towards your left and right, because if there is, you've not got much of a response to it, but you have got that more concentrated fire towards your front. Again, heavy left and heavy right is in effect here, so I believe this is heavy right. It is, because the machine gun is facing over there, and the arcs are pretty simple. It's just that. So the guys on the end just look outwards, and then the rest look forwards. Pretty simple. Pretty effective. Moving on, not really a formation. Anybody got a guess for this one here? Yes, very good. So ARD is what we call it, which stands for all-round defense, also known as a 360 because it covers 360 degrees of a circle. This is a static formation. This is usually used when you're going to be static for a while. It can be used for a variety of things. In this example, we've got the section leading 2 IC in the middle, talking about a plan of attack for the next objective, and everybody around them sort of giving them the 360 degree cover. There's two ways that these ARDs can be formed. The more popular way that I see at the moment is everybody sort of looks at where everybody's looking, and then you look at somewhere where there's nobody looking. Best way I can describe that, imagine this guy isn't here. We can see that there's people over there looking that way, people over there looking that way. There's nobody looking this way, so I'll look this way. The other way that can sometimes be used is if a section lead or a 2IC or somebody comes around and gives you an air of responsibility. So somebody, normally the 2IC can come up to me and say, that wall right there is your left of arc. That wall right there is your right of arc. That means I'm responsible for everything in the middle of those two arcs. It's the easier, or sometimes the easier way of it being set up, but it's not always the way it happens, but it can happen that way. One thing that we will go over later on nearer to the end is this sort of formation. This ARD should be big enough to be able to fit a medium-sized helicopter in the middle. But we'll see an example of that towards the end. Moving on, we have the diamond formation. This formation isn't used very often. It's pretty much only used for HVT, high-value target extractions. So usually you have a guy in the middle holding the HVT, and then you'll have each 4 people flanking them from the front, back, left, and right. This gives a nice 360-degree cover. So if somebody does engage you, you can then engage them with at least 1 gun or 2 guns in some location, depending on where they pop up. And if you do get a bullet flying towards your HVT, it's probably going to hit one of these guys before it hits the HVT with any luck, which is ideal. Moving on to the final one, we have the staggered file. Wait, have I messed up? Hold on.
Yeah, they're not facing the relevant positions.
No, I was referring to something else, but no, I've not messed up. All right, so this one's a little bit more complicated than a normal file. So essentially, you've got 2 parts to this. You've got a part on the, you've got a single file on the left and a single file on the right. There's 2 ways that it can be assembled. The more popular way that I see at the moment is it goes number 1 in order of march, number 2, number 3, and number 4, so on and so forth as you go further and further down the line. The other way this can be assembled is you can have Charlie team on one side and Delta team on the other side. Usually when it gets assembled, you'll be told which one it is. But usually I find the more common one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so on. The arcs for this one are a little bit more complicated. So in normal operations, this guy's going to look forward. But this guy is going to look outwards like so, which is what we expect. However, there is a circumstance where this guy switches from looking outwards to looking inwards. Anybody know why that might happen?
I know.
Exactly, yeah. So in obvious, basically cities, towns, built-up areas, stuff like that, we switch to inwards, and you can run this practically. If you stand here and try and peek this corner and try and have a look at the little, the big, well, one of the arsenals down there, if you can see them, you have to expose yourself quite a lot while you're here, whereas if you're on this side, you don't have to expose yourself nearly as much to get a peek around that corner, and you've got a much better angle. So we always go inside in obvious and then outside in sort of like open fields and stuff for that reason. So this one is pretty much the same as a single file, obviously with it being 2 sides. It's usually used on roads, hedgerows, rivers, essentially a line where there's 2 sides to that line. You can usually use this. Yeah. Any questions for formations? Okay, cool. Follow me. It's going to be running quite far for this one.
Did I get those rinsing legs up, boy? I know this place. Old guy bullied me because I couldn't hit shots.
I love these arrows.
I know. Love it though.
All right, so we're on to target acquisition and calling out. So there's 2 methods that we can use to call out a target. The default way in which we do it is known as the DDD. This stands for Direction, Distance, Description. This is sort of like your initial communication to identify a target that is of interest to your section, and it is designed to be simplistic because it is the first call. It gets the most amount of eyes on. It's very simple in the rough sort of area where you're trying to get your people to look, and then you can be more specific after that. So say, for example, that red guy there is a tank, specifically a T-72. How I would call this out is I would first do the direction. For the direction, we do not use bearing points. We do not use the numbers. We use the letters, also known as the cardinal points. So in this case, southeast for me. Next, we want the distance. I'm going to guess that's about 20 meters or so. I'm probably wrong, but yeah, about 20 meters is what I'm going to guess. And then we're going to just give a basic description of what it is. So in this case, I may know it's a T-72, but I'm just going to say the word tank, because it's designed to be simplistic. So all of that to Next way we can do it is known as the direct method, which is what we've got displayed here. So these are both mirrored on the right and the left. However, I'm only going to go over the guys on the right. So the yellow guy right here is forward. We then have slightly to the right, quarter to the right, half to the right, 3/4 to the right, and then right. So it's sort of like within the sort of frontal area, you can sort of use those points to call out a target. Usually, you're only going to use this when you're all facing the right way, or when you're all facing the same way. So say, for example, you're in an arrowhead, you're in an extended line, you're in a vehicle, you can use a call out like this. But if you're all in the middle of a town, you're all clearing different parts of a town, this probably isn't going to be too helpful, because you're probably going to have a few different people who's facing a few different directions. So Mr. Stork, if you would like to ready your weapon for shooting and step up to the podium, I'm going to call out some of these targets using the direct method. You are to engage them until they fall down and then await the next target. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, half left. Very good. Slightly right. Very good. 3/4 left. Very good. Mr. Stork, you can step down, and Abel, you can take his place. Same for you. 3/4 left. Half right. Very good. And slightly left. Very good. Abel, you can step down, and Valerian, you can replace.
Ooh, you got this.
Half right.
Half right, half right.
Very good. 3/4 left. That was half left. Try again. There we go. That was 3/4 left. We'll go slightly right. And quarter left. So this one would have been the light blue. So it goes light, slightly, quarter, half, 3/4, and then that one would be left on the end. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay, we'll do one more. We'll go 3/4 right.
3/4.
Very good. All right, if you'd like to step down, and Dragon, if you'd like to replace him. Okay, we'll go half left. 3/4 right. Quarter left. Very good. Anybody from the veteran pool want to give it a go?
Ariel wants to go.
Yeah, I thought so. Step up.
Yeah, I'll nominate Ariel, 100%.
She messaged me like,
Alright.
I'll want to shooty shoot.
Let's go half left. Quarter right. Yep, so it would be the light blue then, and then we'll go 3/4 left. Very nice. Anybody else want
Ariel
to
be on
go?
full auto.
Alright, we'll move on. So if you'll like to follow me.
Oh, wasted.
Can anybody hear me? Damn it.
Connected. Channel switched.
Radio check. Radio check. Oh, I'm connected. Hello? Where's the, there we go. Test 1, 2, can you guys hear me? I can't hear anybody.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear me now?
now I can hear you guys. Okay. Were you guys hearing me before at all?
So sorry. Dragons, how it works is there's no communication in-game. If your TeamSpeak disconnects, you'll have no voices. You'll have
Yeah.
any sound.
It took me like 3.
Yeah,
I thought you guys were just like really like enjoying the scenery, like really taking it in. Thought we were waiting on somebody, and then I was like, okay, all right, I think I got an issue. All right, but I appear to be connected now. But I've missed everything since we walked over here.
Okay,
It's
I
okay,
can
we
cover
can
some
go
of that
over it
stuff at the
afterwards.
end if you need. All right, so
Shit, wing your
Dragon,
arm.
if you can mute
Dragon your arm.
yourself.
Yeah.
Am I like?
You bounce.
Re-
Bouncing back at
Yeah. Okay. Hold on.
Yeah, you're hot micing.
Hold on. Come on, TeamSpeak. Work with me.
Where's the way he looks up at the sky?
Let me
Friend,
just
keep going.
fix myself.
Please. Please.
Radio check.
Am I the only one seeing that floating
Hello,
helmet?
hello.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
that's
Ariel,
better.
don't worry.
The floating helmet?
Okay.
That's stuck to Fennec's ass.
Are you guys
It's stuck
looping
to my
through
ass.
anymore?
Yeah, it's just
No,
floating.
no, we're good now.
Like 10
Alright.
levels behind your ass.
Alright,
Fucking
so
TeamSpeak. Man.
going back to the rapid and deliberate thing, it may feel like you are not shooting a lot personally because it's only one round every couple of seconds. What you got to remember is that order is repeated for your whole section. So you might only be shooting one round every 3 to 5 seconds if you're on deliberate, but now times that by 8, that's a lot of fire going down range. What the main point is here is that you don't always have to be shooting super fast because you've got 8 other people there with you shooting. So you can sort of save your ammo because you don't need to shoot fast. If you all shoot fast, you're going to burn through your ammo, and it's going to have the same effect roughly as these 2 suppressive fire orders that we have. And you're going to use your ammo a lot more effectively and a lot slowly, which is usually the good thing. The last one, I don't think I've ever heard this used before, but the last one we have is full auto. Obviously, that's big panic mode. Get them down, full auto, yeah. I don't think I've ever heard that order been used before, but it is one that we have. But obviously with that one, you run the risk of using all of your ammo very quickly, which is why we usually go for the rapid and deliberate options before we go for that one. Any questions?
Just to reiterate, sorry, I'm writing down notes. Rapid fire is 1 round every 1 to 3 seconds.
Rapid is 2 to 3, 1 round every 2 to 3.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And then deliberate is 1 every 3 to 5 seconds.
Yep, got that. Then the full auto caption, no one uses.
Pretty much, yeah. I don't think I've ever heard it been used before.
Oh, I've never. It's always single or like burst.
Yeah.
Phoenix, I just
Alright.
want to note, it looks like you're using a marksman rifle.
I am, yes, yes.
Okay, so any marksman in any section is always watch and shoot, no matter what other orders were given, unless specifically told by your section leader.
Our bullets are so powerful that we don't even use any rapid fire or deliberate fire. We watch and we shoot.
Yes,
exactly.
And
Alright.
is there any differences for machine gunners? I forget the specific term.
Instead of it being a single bullet, usually they'll go for a burst. So they'll shoot like 3 or 4 bullets when they're doing the deliberate ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So now we're going to talk about the actual movement. So we have 1, 2, 3 ways that we're going to be talking about mainly. There's a few more, but we're going to be running through the 3 main ones. Here we have our caterpillar bound, also known as bound. What we have here is we have one fire team. So in this case, Delta team is going to, well, we're all going to be in a line here. Delta team is going to move up to there. Charlie team is going to stay behind and cover fire. And then Charlie team is going to move up, match their position, and then the whole cycle is going to repeat again. So whenever we're talking about moving in cases of a bound or a leapfrog, which we'll talk about in a second, there's 2 ways in which we can move. We can either move as a targeted move. So say, for example, I say, run to that traffic cone there. You run to the traffic cone. The traffic cone's behind you, if you're wondering. If you're not told a target to run to, you use a slight saying in your head to know the rough distance. These guys are spaced roughly in that order. The saying is, "I'm up." They see me. I'm down. And as soon as you say, "I'm down," you're on your face and you've stopped moving. So, as a practical example, I'm up. They see me. And that puts me about here. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay. Stork Dragon, if you want to mark off these 2 blue guys, and Abel and Valerion, if you want to mark off the 2 red guys there. Just stand next to them, behind them, wherever. Just around their rough location. Yeah. So, you 2 over here, you're Delta team. Remember that, Delta team. You 2 are Charlie team. I'm going to go through on the radio and give you a rough example of how you would hear it in a mission. For this example, we're going to say with one section. So how this is going to go is I'm going to say one section, prepare to bound. So that gives you the instruction of what we're going to be doing next. And so in this case, we're going to be doing bounding. And then I'm going to tell you who's going to move and who's going to cover fire. So I might say Delta team cover fire, Charlie team prepare to move. And then I might also say bound after that. So usually I say prepare to bound. And then I'll say and bound. When I say that and bound, that is your cue to go. So as soon as I say and bound, you get up and go. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes.
Have fun.
All right, here we go.
One section, prepare to bound. Charlie team cover fire. Delta team prepare to bound and.
I'm up. They see me.
So that's
I'm down.
So that's Delta team only. So Charlie, if you'd like to go back to the start.
You
So-
can, like, pew, pew, pew.
Yeah. So
Fire.
Abel and
Sorry,
Valerian,
did I
if you
get
want
it
to come
mixed
back here.
Mixed around.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's okay. It goes by quickly, but I said Charlie team cover fire, Delta team prepare to bound. Usually it's going to be
Was I in the right team?
The second one in the call is the one that's going to move, but it's not always going to be like that. But yeah, we'll run it again. Don't worry. And I heard someone say I'm up, they see me, I'm down on the radio. That's my bad. I should have said not. That's something you say in your head as like a rough thing. Not,
oh,
don't say
shit.
it out loud,
All right,
don't
my
say it
bad.
over the radio. No, it's fine. I didn't mention it. I forgot.
Well, okay, copy.
Give up our position now. Okay, we're dead.
All right, we'll do it again.
One section, prepare to bound. If you stay where you are. Okay. One section, prepare to bound. Delta team cover fire. Charlie team prepare to bound and. So Valerian, that's you too. Yep.
Don't worry, we'll keep doing it.
One section, prepare to bound. Charlie team cover fire. Delta team prepare to bound and bound. Perfect. One section, prepare to bound. Delta team cover fire. Charlie team prepare to bound and bound.
Perfect. So you get the idea of it now? It's basically moving a short amount of distance, and you're always aiming to match the rough position of where the team before you went. Any questions? Okay, very nice. If you'd like to follow me, we'll go on to the next one.
You're doing well.
Thanks.
I like this one.
Okay, so this is what's known as a leapfrog. If you've ever played leapfrog as a child, essentially that's what we're doing here. We're just not jumping over people because that would be a bit weird. So essentially, I like to refer to this movement as the double speed movement hack, trademark. Reason for this is how we start this off is we start it off with a bound, and then once we've got a team in front of us, so say for example, don't actually go there, but say for example Valerian and I don't know, Stork were sitting over there, and then the rest of us were over here. We can then sort of use them and then figuratively jump over them and move again. So what I mean by that is you go, I'm up, they see me, I'm down to their position, and then you'd go, I'm up, they see me, I'm down again without stopping. So it's, I'll run it through because it's sometimes quite confusing when I explain like that, but it's essentially this.
All the way down without stopping. It's one very big move.
Hence why I call it the double speed movement hack. But we always start off with a bound, so just keep an eye out for the comms on the radio because I will be saying bound and then we'll be leapfrogging. So we'll get Abel and Dragon on Charlie team there. We'll get Valerian and Stork on Delta team just here. Comms are basically going to be the same, just listen out for the bound and then leapfrog.
One section, prepare to bound. Delta team cover fire. Charlie team prepare to bound and bound. One section, prepare to leapfrog. Charlie team cover fire. Delta team prepare to leapfrog and leap. One section prepare to leapfrog. Delta team cover fire. Charlie team prepare to leapfrog and leap. Jumped the gun a little bit there, but yeah, perfectly fine. Any questions?
Very nice. Follow me.
In the action.
You faked me out. I saw you running.
So, this one is quite complicated and it's very fast, so we may have to run this through a few times. I've only had a handful of groups that's been able to do this on the first try, so if you have to do it multiple times, don't worry about it. It's difficult and it's very fast paced. So this is what's known as a peel. Specifically in this example, it's a right peel because we're going from this side of the formation to the right side. Obviously, if we were going the other way, it would be considered a left peel. Essentially what happens here is the comms are usually around the same, but they're usually a little bit shorter because there's not as much information. But as soon as you're told to left peel in this case, what we're going to do, right peel in this case, we're going to start off by turning left. Anybody know why this is the case? And why you wouldn't just start turning right and running that way?
So you don't cross into your enemy's arc.
Well, it's to see what position you are in.
Not
And
quite.
then,
It's more of what Valerian said. So say, for example, I was here and I went straight to the right and got a little bit excited. Uh-oh, my ankles are gone because they've been shot away by this guy who is actually actively shooting. We always want to make sure we turn away from the section to make sure there's no chance of that happening. After we've done that, we start going around the back. Once you are in line with the guy in the next guy in the formation, you say last man and then you continue without stopping. So the full speed version of that is prepare to peel and right peel, turn left, go around the side, last man, I would continue, and then as soon as this guy here, his last man, that's his signal to do the exact same thing. So stand up, turn to the left, move around, he would then say last man, and then it just keeps going. It's very quick, and it's kind of difficult to get the first try, but we'll give it a go. One thing I do want to mention, it's sort of related to why we turn left here, is the idea of staying in your lane. What I mean by that, and especially more important on those ones over there, say for example, if you're moving all over the place like this, or if you've got a tree in front of you and you move off to the wrong side, you could end up getting shot by your own team. Now, what I always recommend is follow a line that is predictable and do it slowly so that you don't end up getting shot. If you have to deviate from your straight line that you're running, I would always try and turn away from the section that is firing. So say, for example, the rest of the section that is firing is on your right, you turn left, just to make sure you don't get shot. But if you do have to go right, which you sometimes might have to, do it slowly, do it predictably, and if there's a spot on the radio, call out on the radio, just to make sure you don't end up getting shot by your own guns. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay, let's go Valerian, Stork, who we got left? Dragon and Abel. Sure. Go on the blue arrow over there then. Alright, here we go.
One section, prepare to peel, right.
Yep.
Last man.
Last man.
Last man.
Last man.
Perfect. I didn't see anything wrong with that. Yeah, that was perfect. Straight away. Very nice. You should be very proud of yourself. It's not very often that I get it first try.
He tells every section that no section ever gets it right. And then they all get it right.
Very often.
Yeah. Any questions? All right, sweet. Follow me.
It's like grandma saying it's your favorite grandchild. She says it to everybody.
Anyway, we're not gonna run through this one like we did with the other ones. I'm just gonna sort of talk you through it. So this one hasn't really been used a lot. I'm not sure if it has been used before, but it doesn't get used a lot. This is known as the inward Aussie peel. Essentially, the scenario is this is a long-ass alleyway. We're moving through this alleyway. Back there, where those vertical arrows are bits of cover, sort of like a gap in the alleyway that we can duck behind. Right in front of us in the alleyway, we've had some enemies pop up. What we're going to do, we're going to inward Aussie peel. Essentially, these two guys at the front are going to raise their weapons. They are going to full auto mag dump their entire magazine down this alleyway. Once they are empty, they are going to turn inwards. And as soon as they are clear from this guy's line of fire, or this guy if he's on the right-hand side, they are then going to start mag dumping and doing the whole same thing. So it's mag dump, run to the back, mag dump, run to the back, until you get to a piece of cover or to a stopping point where your sectional team lead will say stop. Any questions? Okay, sweet. We'll move on. Alright, so it doesn't matter which one you take, but if you like to take these four guys, any one of these four guys here that have the arrows, and we'll talk through this section. So usually during this part we would attack this objective in two different ways. We're only going to do it once today just because of time. I spent a little bit more time on the start than I'd like, so I'm going to cut a little bit of time off here. So essentially what this situation is those sandbags over there. Imagine that's a huge organized FOB from the enemy, and we have been tasked with taking it out. We've been tasked with engaging it. So we were in an extended line formation. We have taken fire from that FOB. We have done our RTR drill, and we are currently awaiting our orders. Section commander, which is over there somewhere, is going to use their big brain and is going to have a big think, and then they're going to come up with something called QBOs. Those are the quick battle orders, and we're going to follow those quick battle orders and engage the FOB. In this case, the section commander has decided to do a flanking attack with which section is this? I assume this is Delta. No, it's Charlie. So Charlie team is going to break off from the formation. They're going to flank left around this tree line and engage from the side. Delta team is going to stay here and provide covering fire while they move, and general support by fire on the FOB right there. So we're not going to do it as formal as we did last time. We're just, we'll call out that we're flanking now. Just follow the arrows around and I'll meet you at the side. We're not going to do it the whole way we just did it.
Once you get around the side, just have a sit on any one of the arrows that are down.
Nick, your helmet is like freaking hovering around.
Ellie was attached to me while she was writing the message.
Alright, so we're going to pretend that we're not against Arma AI here, we're against something a lot more silly. They've not seen us, somehow. Wow. And we're going to, essentially, from this point in a minute, we're going to simultaneously bound forward to this log, and then we're going to attack them from the log. Now, this drill has been compressed space-wise. Usually this is going to be a lot bigger, and you're going to be covering a lot more ground, but because it's such a small area, we compressed the spaces down. Now, when we've been running up down here, and now we're sitting here, are we sitting behind A, cover, or B, concealment?
Concealment.
Yeah, concealment.
Okay. And Mr. Dragon, what's the difference between cover and concealment?
Cover provides some sort of mitigation to enemy projectiles and explosions.
Whereas concealment does not. Concealment obscures position, yes. So here we've got the bushes that are obscuring our position. They can't see us as well. But if you were to shoot through this bush, it would come through. Whereas if you did an about face, if you were hiding behind that concrete wall, chances are it's gonna the round is gonna be stopped. That's cover. So we're gonna use this concealment, and then we're gonna bound forward. Now, as this is Charlie team. So as the section leader, just before we bound forward, I'm gonna say either shift fire or switch fire. Anybody know what that means? Mr. Duck, if you could walk us through it.
Sorry, say again?
Shift fire or switch fire, just before we move in.
Switch fire, shift fire, I would say like shift fire right, so that we don't start shooting our own guards as they push in. Switch fire, I've never used myself, so I'm not quite sure.
They're both the same thing. It's most of the time it's shift fire.
His hand
Switch or
gestures are
shift.
perfect.
But essentially, as Mr. Duck said, it's an order for Delta Team, which are still down there, still providing our cover fire to this base, basically telling them to shift their fire to the right, so that when we run in there, we don't get shot in the ass, because that wouldn't be a very good day. Anyway, what we're going to do now is we're going to start bounding through. So we go one. We were Charlie Team, aren't we? So Charlie Team, prepare to bound and bound. So all of us, there we go. And don't actually shoot, but we're going to start shooting. And because of the compressed physical distance, we're going to throw grenades. We're going to go pew pew bang bang, all that sort of stuff, until we're going to be ordered to move in. Once we move in, if you'd like to follow me, we're going to do it in two parts. So we're going to do the initial search. So we're going to move through. We're going to check everybody's dead. We're not going to clear any buildings. We're not going to search for any intel. We're just going to make sure everybody's dead, make sure it's secure, and then we're going to move off the objective by 50 meters at least, and we're going to form an ARD here. So if you'd like to hop into a rough ARD. So, after we have done that initial thing, there's two ways we can progress from here. Now, obviously, Delta is still back there. What we can do is we can have them regroup on us, and while they're on their way, they can search the objective properly, because don't forget, we've got buildings that we need to search, we've got to search for intelligence, and all that sort of thing. We basically just walked through it, so we need to search it again. The other way we can do it is, if we wanted to, we could send people from here. So send two of you guys, for example, that would bound all the way back to the objective, and then search it again if we're doing this whole two-part search. In this case, what we're going to do for time is we're going to have Delta Team go and do it. So a question for all of you. You have two options. You are the section leader. You can either send your section, the Delta Team, through the middle, or you can send them through the side. The side is a longer way. The middle is the shorter way. You're being yelled at by Zero that you need to get moving right now. Which one do you choose? And why? Okay. So in this case, the answer I'm looking for is around the side. Yes, it's slower, but what we've done there by us running up that side is we've created something called a proven route. There could be mines, punji sticks, whatever, in that small section over there. So although it seems shorter, you could be sitting there for about 5 hours clearing mines. Whereas if we go up the route that we already know is clear, there's no chance of that. So usually we're going to follow a proven route rather than go up the middle, even if it looks quicker, just to be safe. Yeah. So next what we're going to talk about is ammo and equipment. So after we've done a fight, we obviously want to find out how much ammo and how much equipment we have for our entire section to make sure that we don't run out. So there's two ways we can do this. There's two checks that we can do called the ACE check and the Kazam check. The ACE check is the more common one. And each one of the letters in ACE refers to a different part of your status, essentially. You answer each one of these independently and with something called a RAG system. So red, amber, green, and then black. So we'll start off with the A in the ACE. A stands for ammo, so it's how much ammo you have for your personal weapon. Green means you're completely fine. You have enough mags to do at least another 2 offensive operations before you run out. Amber means you have enough to do 1 more offensive operation before you start to run out. Red means you only have enough ammo to defend yourself. Black means you are completely out of ammo. The next one, the C, is casualty. Green means you are perfectly fine. You do not need any help from anybody regarding your medical. Amber means you are injured, but you can wait before being seen by a medic. Red means you are heavily injured and you need to be seen by a medic right now. And black means you're dead, so you're probably not going to be saying that one. Finally, we have the E. This stands for special equipment. This is anything that you have on you that is special to your role or to the mission. For example, the medic will be their medical loadout. The pointman, if they are carrying them, will be their explosives. The grenadier, it will be their grenades, so on and so forth. And it's the same thing, red, amber, green, and black. Does that all make sense? Any questions? Okay, and we also have the CASAM check. So the CASAM check is essentially the same thing but smaller. So CAS, casualty, ammo. So instead of saying green, 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 you would say green, green. If you are in fact green on your ammo and your casualty. Usually, what we'll be doing from here, if I didn't need to cut down on some time, is we'll be running this attack again, but straight up through the middle. So we'll be bounding through the middle, and then we'll be doing the same searching procedure that we just did there. I have a question for everybody as well. Once we moved off of this FOB, I mentioned that we're moving off by at least 50 meters. Why might we need to make sure that we're moving off by at least 50 meters? Exactly that, yeah. At the start, I mentioned that this was an organized FOB that was massive. In that case, we can assume that the enemy knows the location of that FOB down to a 10-figure grid reference, which means if any one of those people inside of that base was able to radio into their mortarmen and say, "Oi, broken arrow, shoot mortars on me, the enemy are here," you could end up with mortars landing directly on your head very accurately. If you move at least 50 to 100 meters off of an objective, you don't have to do it all the time, but if you move at least 50 to 100 meters off the objective, this is less of a concern, essentially. Okay, let me just make sure I haven't missed anything. Let me read my notes real quick. Okay, we are good. Right, follow me, and we'll move on. Okay, so now we're going to talk about vehicle dismounting. There are 4 ways that you can dismount from a vehicle, 2 of which are on display here. Full and emergency dismount mean that everybody in the vehicle gets out. Full means you can get out sort of like in your own time. Obviously, do it quickly, but in your own time. Emergency dismounts means get out now, even if the vehicle's moving, because something bad is about to happen. An emergency dismount, it can be called by anybody at any time by either saying out, 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 or bail, 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 preferably over the vehicle's intercom if there is one. This is normally saved for when there is an RPG or maybe a tank or something that's firing on your vehicle and it's about to go boom boom. And it's sort of like the last-ditch effort to sort of try and save yourself, get out of the vehicle, try and find some cover and survive, essentially. So that's what we have on show here. Now, if we move to this one, you will notice that the gunner in the vehicle has remained. This is known as a hard dismount. A hard dismount means the person in the top gun gets out. The person in the top gun remains in the vehicle. Everybody else gets out. So in this case, we have 4 people to a vehicle, 3 people are out, 1 person remains. Now, this is mainly a note for section leaders. However, I always mention it to make sure. This guy here is our machine gunner. We also have another gun up there. Now, imagine if our machine gunner was in that gun. In this example, we have 2 guns, but if our machine gunner was in the big gun, we only have 1 big gun. Hopefully that makes sense. Essentially what I'm trying to say is if you're the machine gunner, try to avoid that top gun seat because you lose one of your big guns and it is around 66% of your firepower if you do get in that seat. It's more of a note for section leaders, but if you do find yourself in that sort of situation, at least mention it or try and get somebody to replace you so that you have the extra firepower. What else? Oh yes. When you're in a vehicle, and you're in a vehicle that's not in a convoy, if you are told to dismount, but you've not been told what to do when you dismount, you automatically form an ARD around the vehicle. Usually, this is done with the MG facing the threat. So, say, for example, the threat's on that side, the MG will be sitting there, and everybody else will sort of adjust. But if you've not been told to do anything after you've exited a vehicle, the default is an ARD. Moving on to the last part, you may now notice that the driver and the gunner has remained in the vehicle. This is known as a soft dismount. Soft dismount is where everybody apart from the driver and the gunner exits the vehicle. Yeah, pretty simple. Any questions? Okay, very nice. Now we're going to move over to here and talk about convoys. So, in Fire Ranger, because we have sort of like a soft combat system, sort of anybody can do any role, you may find yourself in a driver's seat at some point, driving a vehicle in a convoy. In a convoy, we're always on radio 80, and if you remember from the start, I mentioned that we were going to come back to this right at the end. 80 is sort of like a weird frequency that moves between casual voice protocol and formal voice protocol. There's sort of a script, but it's not as hard as the formal voice protocol. Usually, your commander of the vehicle is going to be the person who talks on this frequency, but your driver is also expected to listen into the frequency. When you're driving, when you're speaking on the radio, the comms are quite simple. All it is your call sign and then what you're going to say. There are a few structured things that you say, like terms, but it's pretty simple. So starting off with your call sign name, that's the number of your vehicle inside of the formation. So say, for example, we were this one here, we would be VIC2, because we're the second vehicle in the formation, so we're VIC2. When we make our calls, depending on which one we do, we sometimes say it 3 times. So if we're turning left or we're turning right, we would say VIC2, left, 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 VIC2, right, right, right. If we're coming to a stop, we'll say VIC2 stopping or VIC2 halting, something like that. But usually it's all done by your call sign and then what your message is. It's pretty simple. The only exception is the last vehicle in the formation. The last vehicle in the formation is expected to say last Vic instead of their number. This just lets the front of the vehicle know that they have passed. Say, for example, you're all turning right. It lets the section, well, not the platoon commander, know that all vehicles are now past that intersection. So it gives them more of a situational awareness. Now, onto a little bit of formation. So we always like to try and push through targets, push through contact when we can. However, when we have to stop, we form a specific formation, which is the formation that you see in front of you. This is known as the chicane. Now it's slightly a little bit different when we actually do it, but because of certain limitations with Zeus and editor and stuff, we can't do it perfectly, but I'll sort of walk you through it. So this vehicle here, the front vehicle, takes a either 45-degree or 90-degree turn to completely block the road. Every vehicle behind them takes a 45-degree turn to their area of responsibility, and it's the same area of responsibility that we use for the infantry. So it's right, left, right, left, right, left, and then the rear vehicle looking rear. So we follow that down the middle, which you see we've got this one looking right, this one looking left, and then the rear vehicle moves between 45 degrees and 95 degrees and completely blocks the road and looks behind. This way we have sort of like a secure checkpoint moving through. Say, for example, we have a vehicle approaching from the rear that we need to let through the formation. How we would do this is the rear vehicle would move out of the way. We would then put the vehicle between the last two, so he's then in that block, and lock him in from the block. We would then move this vehicle, so the Land Rover in this case, forward, and allow the vehicle into this block and lock him in behind. So it's sort of like an airlock system, where you always want to make sure there's at least one door closed as you're letting them through. And so they can get all the way through safely. And it also means that if there's like car bombs or whatever, if it does go off or whatever happens, it's less less destructive to the entirety of the convoy. Now, quick little test for you lot. So, you're driving along in this convoy. The entire convoy, all the vehicles inside the convoy have been told to dismount, but you've not been told what to do. You're in this vehicle here. Go and sit wherever you think you are supposed to sit when you dismount from this vehicle. And we'll go over it afterwards. There is only one right answer, unfortunately. Okay, we've only got one person that sort of got it half right, which is Mr. Dragon here. So if you'd like to collapse over to here. So, whenever we're, obviously, when I was over there, I said when you're not in a convoy, your default is ARD. When you're in a convoy, your default is to form up on the side of the vehicle and look to the side that your vehicle is pointing, which is why Dragon got it half right, because he's on this side, but he's not looking this way. The full real answer would be this. Now, the best way to explain it is to sort of think more big. So, for example, this vehicle here is looking to the left. All of their guys are going to come out and look to the left. All of those guys in the back vehicle are going to come out and look to the back. All of these guys are going to pop out and look to the front. So you've still got that nice 360-degree view with all of the guys. It's just a lot bigger than it being more individual, which is why you always come to the side and look to the way that your vehicle is looking, because all the other sides are going to be covered if everybody does it correctly. Obviously, if your section commander says, get out and form an ARD, then you form an ARD. But if you're not told what to do, that's what you do. Any questions? All right, sweet. Follow me. Last two bits. Alright, so if you remember all the way back to the start, when we were covering ARDs, I mentioned that your ARD should be big enough to fit a medium-sized helicopter in it. Exhibit A, medium-sized helicopter inside an ARD. This helicopter is our Wildcat. It is a side-loading helicopter. No points for figuring out why we called it that. Now, when we're boarding a side-loading helicopter, specifically this version of the side-loading helicopter, we must form a full ARD. Reason for this is it does have weapons on it, but they can't effectively cover the helicopter themselves. So we essentially have to cover the entirety of the helicopter for them. So a machine gun is going to be facing towards the threat, and yeah, usually the helicopter is going to land facing towards the threat as well. One thing to note, if you are in front of the helicopter, is these little things that spin around on the top that I like to refer to as the spinny blades of death. If you start taking contact and that helicopter deems it is no longer safe for them to remain where they're remaining, they may decide to do an emergency takeoff, which includes taking off over the ground a little bit and then slamming the nose forward. And if you're not expecting it and you're standing in front of it, you can say goodbye to your head because it's going to depart from your shoulders, unfortunately. So just make sure you're keeping an eye on the rotors. You may also notice we got another one on the back. It's a little bit smaller, but don't go running into it because, yeah, bad day, pink mist, nobody likes that. And yeah, when we're actually boarding onto the helicopter, usually what we'll do is we'll collapse onto it. So the rule is usually the guys that are in this case on the 3 o'clock position will board the helicopter on the 3 o'clock position, and the guys that are on the 9 o'clock position will board on the 9 o'clock. It's sort of a little bit more fluid for the guys on the front and the back. They can sort of go whichever way. Usually it'd be dictated from the section commander, but yeah, that's sort of like how we do it. Before we even think about boarding, though, we must get, well, specifically the section commander must get permission to board the helicopter. So if you're sitting down after the helicopter is landed, it's probably because they're waiting for permission to board. And then they'll say, okay, board up, 3 o'clock, board on the 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, board on 9 o'clock. Any questions? Very nice. Follow me. We'll do the last one. So here we have our HC3 Merlin. Now this does have doors both on the side and on the rear, but we call this one a rear loading because that's the one where the infantry is best getting in and out of because of the ramp that we have. Now, you may see that we have formed what's known as a semi-ARD or a half ARD. Reason because of this is these little things here. These guns are supposed to be manned by themselves, and because these guns are here, even if there's nobody on those guns, we do not sit... Oop, don't mean to do that. Essentially, we always make sure we form the semi-ARD to reduce the risk of being shot over. Unless the person that you're shooting over knows you are shooting over them, we always like to say do not do it. Because, say for example, I'm sitting here, we get a contact here, I start shooting them, they start shooting over me. If I do this, I've got no head on my shoulders. So unless that person knows that I'm shooting over them, then do not do it, because it's got a very high chance of you doing a little bit of friendly fire if you didn't mean to. So we always try and avoid it, no matter what. So that's why we form up on the back. Because we're all on the back, you don't really have to worry about spinning blades of death for this one. They're a lot higher up, even if you were on the front, because it's so much higher up, there's a lot less chance that you'll get hit by them. And obviously that one is fucking way off the ground. If you somehow manage to get cut up by that one, we either need to phone an exorcist or a mental health professional. But yeah, simple one for this one is everybody just collapses, usually one at a time, and then they board in from the rear. Pretty simple. Any questions?
Could I just add something, if that's okay with you?
Yeah, go for it.
Sometimes when boarding vehicles, or all the time when boarding vehicles, you're going to be placed into like an intercom sort of channel. Now, if you're boarding that vehicle with multiple other sections, it is nuts, especially for the pilot. So try not to speak when you're in the vehicle, and maybe switch off the intercom. It'll just like help with the comms. That's it.
Yep. You may also hear people saying permission to speak. If you hear somebody saying that, or you hear somebody saying PTS, usually that means permission to speak. You basically ask for permission to speak before you speak. If you also hear red lights, we don't really do it too much, but if you hear red light when you're power dropping, that is also a cue to be quiet before you disembark the helicopter. All right, if you'd like to follow me, that is the training over. Yippee.
If I can have all of the candidates in front of the warrior, all of the people who are spectating / done this twice in front of the ridgeback, and then I will stand in front of the husky.
Come on, but it's just us.
Yeah.
Right, give me a second, I was going to get my camera over here. Alright, I'm going to take a quick photo. Alright, say cheese.
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 Alright, very nice. Okay, so that is the end of your IUTR. If you've not run this before, your tags will be added and there'll be a forum post shortly to congratulate you from getting through all of this. For Dragon and Abel, you missed certain parts, so I can go over them again if you'd like to at the end. If not, then no worries, you didn't really miss out on too much. And you've definitely attended enough to still be considered for the IUTR. For the rest, operation day is usually on Saturday every week. Server opens at 6:45 for regular Rangers. If you're in a command position, you're expected to get there for 6:30.
User left
Usually
your
briefing's
channel.
going to be around 6:45, I think it is, and then step off is usually always around 7. Currently we're off BST time zone. Once we're out of summer, we'll be going back to GMT, so it'll be an hour sooner for our international friends. Training is usually every Tuesday. At the moment, we don't really have much training on offer because we're sort of like in a weird stage of getting all the trainings back on track. IUTR is usually run once every fortnight, so there won't be another one next week, but there will be one the week after that. If you want to attend, you can attend this as many times as you like, so it gets stuck in your head. If you've got any questions in the meantime, I like to think we have a nice friendly community. You can ask members of your section. You can ask people in J7. You can ask us general questions in chat and stuff. And I like to think that a nice, friendly answer will be delivered to you. This training, it has gone through quite a lot, and there has been a lot of stuff said. However, it's only a basic training. This training is designed to be able to get you started within 5 Ranger, but you may still find yourself a little bit lost when you're out on the battlefield. Don't worry, this is normal. Most of the stuff you're going to learn is going to be out in the battlefield, and there may even be some slight changes as to what I've delivered here in the battlefield as well, due to the variables that exist within what we do. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to be like, oh, I've not heard of that before. What does that mean? Or stuff like that. Again, I like to think we have a nice friendly community that can support you through 5 Ranger. Obviously, you know who you can ask questions to. But yeah, you're all free to go if you do not want to stay.
Perfect. Thank you for your time, man.
No worries.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, great job.
I'm good with the medical stuff I missed because I did a shit. Someone is not miking again.
Yeah, no worries.
I was trying to
Yeah,
clap,
I'm
sorry.
What about you, Dragon? Would you like to go over the bits that you missed? It wasn't much.
Yeah, sure.
I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, I think it was like back behind that building over there.
We don't have to go all the way there. I'll just give it to you here. So I sort of remember where you were. So when we're talking about section movement, we're talking about movement that we are doing under fire. So say, for example, like that FOB thing that we did. The FOB is shooting at us. If we are being shot at, we do not move unless we are also shooting at them. So unless we're under cover fire. So essentially, no move under fire without cover fire is the saying. Did you hear about the RTR drill, or did you come back before then? I don't think you heard about it, did you?
I don't think I heard about it.
Okay. So our RTR drill is essentially our drill that we perform as a reaction to contact. So you get shot at, you instantly perform the RTR. R stands for return fire. T stands for take cover. The other R stands for return appropriate fire. So say, for example, we have a guy near that jackal right there, and he fires a shot at us. We are going to shoot 2 to 3 rounds in that rough direction. Does not need to be accurate. It just needs to be fast. So he goes pew pew. We go pew pew back. We then take cover. If you're in an open field, best bit of cover you can do is on the prone. Next, you want to return appropriate fire, and that's your more accurate fire, depending on what your fire control orders are, or just trying to find the target and then trying to shoot him. In terms of fire control orders, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 in total. They sort of just determine how fast you can shoot and how you shoot. So hold, obviously, is hold your fire, do not shoot. Next is watch and shoot. So what you do for this one is you look for your target. Once you've found your target, you then PID it. That stands for positively identify. If they are enemy, you can engage. Next is deliberate. So this is these next 3 are suppressive fire orders. So you don't necessarily have to have a target. You may be told to deliver a deliberate fire on that coyote there. You don't have to see the person that you're trying to shoot at. You just shoot in that general direction, and it's just aimed to get their head down. So deliberate fire is you shoot 1 round every 3 to 5 seconds. Rapid, you shoot 1 round every 2 to 3 seconds, so it's a little bit quicker. And then full auto is full auto, and I believe that's when you came back. Any questions?
Negative. I think that covers it. Yep, that was the stuff I was missing. Appreciate your time.
Sweet, no worries. And I will see you in the field sometime.
All right, perfect. See you guys around. Duck, thank you very much for helping get me all hooked up and stuff.
Yeah, roger that, man. Feel free to ask any questions, like especially when it comes to like control setups, and it's like playing piano, bro. It's crazy stuff going on. Your head track should work as well. You should be able to get that to work. Might just be some, setup, but should work. Should all work. Yeah.
Sweet potatoes, buddy. All right.
Yeah. Thank you for joining, bro. I know it's also a long one as well, but yeah.
No worries,
A lot of
brother. I
it's
just needed to
quite
go to bed a
helpful.
little earlier last night, but that was probably the healthy thing to do. Just let me know when there's one of these operations that you'll be able to come to, and I'll try to make it to it.
Okay, so there is one every Saturday. So there's one this Saturday coming up. Unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to do the platoon command, so I won't be in the section. But yeah, there's one every single Saturday. I don't know if you know how to find them, but I can also just show you where they are when time comes closer to it.
All right, brother. Sounds good. Well, I'll leave you guys to it then.
Yeah, right. Thank you, man. Appreciate it, bro.
Yes, sir. Later on, brother.
All right.